Welcome back to Client Talks, our newest playlist on the High Homes YouTube channel, where we invite real clients, real High Homes clients, buyers that have done the entire journey. And today I'm speaking to Matthew and Catherine. Matthew and Catherine bought a beautiful property in Estepona this year with the help of Kim, and I had a chat with them to understand what the journey was like from their point of view, their challenges, their experience. Do you want to hear about it? Coming up. Matthew, Catherine, welcome to the High Homes YouTube channel.
Nice to see you, Kim.
So thanks for jumping on. I'll give a bit of an intro before we dive into your journey and your story. We are currently producing these videos on our Client Talk playlist. And basically, Matthew, Catherine, the idea is that we wanted to share the real stories of buyers like yourselves that have navigated this real estate market with our help in this case. And we want to sort of showcase what the journey feels like, what the journey sort of is like from a buyer's perspective, but also like the challenges you come across, what it's like boots on the ground to see properties, what it's like to pull the trigger. And then after that, you know, I'd love some pieces of advice to potential people which are watching this right now. So that's a very long-winded opening to the question, which is introduce yourselves. Who are we speaking to?
So Matthew and Catherine, we're from the UK. I am sort of retired, just. My wife is thinking about being retired shortly.
Very interesting perspective. So nearly retired, thinking of retiring. Nice.
Yeah, I may not be retired. If she carries on working, she'll make me go back to work. So we'll see how that works. But long been an ambition to own a property abroad. We were looking to purchase something that we see as a frequent holiday home. So we're not looking to become permanent residents in Spain on the Costa del Sol. So we will continue to live in the UK. We've got 2 children here. One's still reasonably sort of school age, the other one at university. So we're going to be hopefully getting to spend 10, 12 weeks a year across on the Costa del Sol. So we've been going to the area for a number of years, really like it. I'm a golfer, play golf over there quite a bit. My wife plays as well, perhaps not quite as much as me, but she does play.
And not as well as you, but yeah.
You know. So that was a big chunk of it. Where we're based in the UK, kind of in the southern part of the Midlands in the UK, a place called Milton Keynes. Number of airports we can get to, very easy to get down to Malaga, get down to Gibraltar. Therefore, the Costa del Sol was a relatively easy choice. Really enjoy the climate. I think the combination of the Med and the mountain range means that the weather on the Costa del Sol, it's got that beautiful kind of, it never gets crazy hot.
Yeah.
But it's got that like really nice temperature in the evenings, which we really enjoy. We want our experience on holiday to be an outdoor one more than an indoor one. So doing stuff out and about. Loads of lovely restaurants, loads of great bars, loads of lovely beaches. What's not to like?
Loads of golf courses.
Yeah, quite a few golf courses.
Yeah. Who knew?
So that's our starting point.
Yeah.
And then really probably about 2 or 3 years ago, we got more serious about trying to think about if we were going to buy, where we were going to buy. And then I would say in the last year or so, started taking that really seriously. Watching lots of videos on YouTube, came across your channel.
Amazing.
Enjoyed a lot of those videos. Particularly, I think the initial choice really was around the area that we wanted to be in, more so than properties themselves. I think, as you know.
So that's a perfect moment to ask you, Matthew. How do you sort of, you know, you start here, right? And you go, Costa del Sol is where we want to be. How do you narrow it down? Like, what's the process? And, you know, tell us about it.
So, I mean, the area that we knew was kind of the Marbella, Nuevo Andalucia, Puerto Banús area, which we like. And then it was kind of really trying to understand, well, with the budget that we've got, probably, you know, the most expensive parts of Marbella were not within our reach, because that's one of the more expensive places in the world to buy property. So then it was really what other areas can we go to, can we like? So we wanted to explore them. We watched a number of the area guide videos that you guys have done about.
Amazing. I love to hear this feedback.
Which was really, really helpful. Okay. And then I think also it was also understanding what type of property do we want. So do we want to be like in the city? Do we want to be a bit further out where probably you can walk in? Are we going to go even further out where you're probably going to need a car, more on the kind of the golf course side of the property market, and understanding what your budget for in different places and different things like that. I think we were able to settle relatively quickly on any of those would be okay, because we would want to play golf. So we would probably have a vehicle, hire a car whenever we came. So, and we started getting into quite like the idea of like these panoramic sea view apartments that you can get, which obviously is amazing, but therefore you're not probably going to be walking distance to the beach if you've got one of those.
That's right.
So that was probably where we settled. I think we decided we wanted to be Nuevo Andalusia or west of there, so sort of in the Estepona region. But then we were also quite intrigued by La Cala de Mijas as well, and if we'll get onto this, but when we came across and you guys helped us start doing some property tours and stuff, those are the two areas we looked at. We kind of looked at Estepona and La Cala de Mijas to try and determine, I think as much as anything, to make sure that when we thought we'd chosen Estepona, that we didn't go, oh no, actually La Cala's much nicer.
Yeah, no, and I think that was important to us, actually, was to make sure that, yes, we'd done a lot of research, we'd visited over the years, we thought we knew where we wanted to be, but we were still open to actually where else is there. And Kim really did help us with that we were then able to say, yeah, as Matt said, have we made the right choice? But by looking at maybe other areas, we wanted to cross those off or tick them as possibilities. So I guess it's having an idea, yes, but remaining open to anything that you guys suggest. Yeah.
So you guys.
Sorry, I think interestingly as well, what that actually told us was more that we weren't going to make the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't a wrong decision to be made.
Yeah.
That when Kim showed us around the places in La Cala de Mijas, there were some lovely places, really like La Cala itself. We went to Campopino, that's beautiful. So actually, I think what we learned was this is probably going to be more about the property and the budget, because there isn't, of the locations we looked at, there really wasn't a bad one. So, we would very happily, I mean, we ultimately settled on something in West Estepona. So West Estepona, as you've sort of
there you go.
We're borrowing that one. That was a decision really based, I think, more around that we really liked the views from the property that we eventually picked, and it fell very nicely into our budget, which was helpful. Timing was good. We were buying off plan, and we knew we didn't need the property probably for at least a year. So we were looking for something that was going to be finished middle of next year, maybe a bit later than that, hopefully with the benefit of getting that at a competitive price point, because we had to wait for a bit, but we knew we could. So yeah, that was really what we did. The thing that I think was not shocking, but was a little bit more of an eye opener, was how quickly everything was moving. So
would you say that was that came as a shock, compared to back at home, the speed of the market?
Yeah. So I think there were a few things that we learned. So I think number one, that the developers don't release all the properties at the same time. So you go and look at an under construction development where they're building 100 properties, and there are like 10 for sale.
Exactly.
And it's quite hard to know. I mean, and actually most of the people in the various show homes are really helpful, but quite often it's, we've sold 15, there are 10 for sale. Well, when are the other 75 going to be available? And it's like, well, we don't know. The developer's not told us yet. So that made a little bit of choosing quite difficult, because you always kind of worry about, well, am I going to get the right one? Because the right one that I want might not be for sale at the moment.
Yeah.
And actually, when we came out initially for 2 days with Kim, she spent a day sort of touring us around La Cala de Mijas and a day touring us around sort of central, east and west Estepona. We probably settled on 3 different apartments that we thought were in the running. After that, there were a couple that were quite easy to rule out, and I think Kim kind of intentionally showed us a couple that were perhaps at the bottom end, slightly below our budget, to kind of demonstrate that we probably didn't want those, which I think was really helpful. Showed us a couple that were above our budget as well, which was quite depressing because they were lovely. But yeah, so I think that was really helpful. But you know, we settled on 3, and then went away, did all the maths, kind of started to get money together to actually be able to pay deposits and things. And then we came back for another visit, and when we came back, only one of those 3 actually had anything we could buy, because the other one, they'd either sold or they moved on to different ones. One had nothing for sale. They'd kind of like pulled all their units off sale for a period of time, probably only a couple of weeks, but you know, that matched when we came. And we spoke to Kim because we wanted to see a few more, because I think we'd settled on an area then, so it was like let's see a couple more. And the challenge there was, you know, well, we need to see something with some availability, and probably we need to see something more in the area that we wanted. And again, you know, if it works well with the budget, that would be great. And we saw, I think, what, 3 or 4 more. And then really it came down to a choice between 2. I wouldn't say we're completely vibes people, so it wasn't like I had to fall in love with it. We liked all of them, really. I think we only really saw one apartment that we kind of went, no, this is not for us. And the rest of them, they were all nice. So we were a little bit more practical about it. You know, we had a list, and it's like, does it have this? Does it have that? Is it this? Is it that? And you know, finally we used that to narrow one down.
Yeah. And
then we got back in touch with Kim and said, I think we'd like to go for one. And you know, she facilitated meeting up with Lola from Naynor Homes, which is we bought in Eterna Homes, which is in West Estepona. Lola was lovely. Kim was lovely. That whole process was really nice. And then effectively, then the next bit that was really, really good and really helpful was, you know, Kim was able to say to us that if we wanted to, that you would introduce us to lawyers that could help us.
Yep.
In a very weird coincidence, we've got some friends who've got an apartment and they've got lawyers out there, and the company that you deal with, Manzanares, is the same company that they're with. So we had 2 recommendations for the same company, so that made that really easy. And then Kim introduced us to Marta, who you've had on the channel recently, who is now acting for us as our lawyer. Marta was so helpful, really, really helpful, and has been since. We met with Marta. Kim sort of held our hand through that, which was lovely. And then accompanied us to the notary as well, didn't we? So we Manzanares, as you know, are located very close to the notary office. We went along to the notary, got power of attorney sorted out, and literally, I think in 24 hours from deciding what we wanted to buy, it really felt like we'd bought it, you know, because we'd signed the initial deposit paperwork, we'd got a lawyer, we'd got a power of attorney, they were organised to get us bank accounts, all that kind of stuff. It was really, really went really quickly.
Yeah, it did, but not in
the way that we felt rushed, just in the way that felt, you know, really good, because it's like, well, we've made a decision, we want to get on with this, and it really felt like it happened.
And I guess that would be the one thing I would say in terms of to people who are thinking about this is, yes, it might seem a bit scary making the decision, and as you say, Kian, you start off with this and you need to narrow it down.
Right.
And I guess, you know, having an idea, but then being open and actually getting reassurance that you kind of feel like, yes, I have made the right decision, I'm in the right area, I'm looking at the right property. But then once you make that decision, it actually can move quite quickly. So I guess what I would say is be prepared for that. The system is different to what it is in the UK.
Yeah,
and I guess a lot of people may know that going in, but the one thing I would say is it's quicker than the system in the UK, and that can be a good thing, because sometimes in the UK it can be quite slow. That definitely wasn't our experience, but as Matt says, I think it wasn't too quick. You know, it wasn't worrying in any way. It did feel like we were very much reassured, things were explained to us. So yeah, just a really great experience for something that actually might, on the face of it, feel like quite a scary thing or quite a big thing. It was made to feel quite simple and quite familiar. So yeah, very good, very good.
I have to say, like I think like you've outlined your journey from A to Z so beautifully. Normally on these videos, I sort of prompt and ask questions, but like it's like a poet. You listen to you talk. It's like from A, this is what happened. This is what we did. This is what we felt. This is how we did it. It's perfect. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I say in real estate terms, before people jump into the market, before they embark on the journey of buying a property in Spain, there's 3 phases to this journey. The first phase is you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
The second phase is you know what you don't know, and this tends to happen when you start investigating online and you start looking at things and you start realizing, oh, I didn't know I had to know about all these things. I need to know about all that as well. And then you've got your third phase, which is what I consider you guys to be in, which is you know what you know. And that's basically, the combination of ground experience, doing the theory, doing the practicals, and working with the market. With this sort of like intro to the question, you outlined a bit about what you would tell people which are looking at this video right now. But if you had to give like a top 2 or top 3, sort of bullet points, piece of advice for that person that's about to embark, we have people from all over the world, US, Canada, Britain, Ireland. What would be like the top advice that you would give that person that's currently listening to you?
So I think there's probably a couple of things that I would say. One, a little bit lighthearted, which is it really is a lot of fun. So the 2-3 days we had with Kim where we were going around looking at the properties was really enjoyable. And we knew we were going to be realizing an ambition that we had. We were looking at properties that we could afford to buy, and we wanted to buy one, and that was super enjoyable. I think the main probably tip that I would give people is probably try to be as clear as you can with yourselves as to what you actually want. And I think that some people are going to buy because they make an emotional connection with the property, but there's a lot of, certainly with the new build properties, there's a lot of similarity between a lot of the properties. They're not wildly different in design. There is a style that is popular at the moment. You're going to look at, a 2-bed, 2-bath, open plan kitchen with a nice terrace. It's all going to be very glass and very white and clean. And if you like that, fabulous if you're looking at new build. But as a consequence, I think it's quite useful. And we definitely had this. We had a fairly extensive list of things that we were looking for, some of which we considered to be kind of non-negotiables. It's got to have this, and then some which were nice to haves. And then when we got down to, based on the more emotional side of things, our feelings of, well, it's probably between these 2 or 3, it was really helpful then to be able to go through and kind of tick, yeah, that one does this, and it made the final decision as to which one we want to buy relatively easy, I think.
I think we were a little bit surprised, were we? That you might think that sometimes it's difficult to make that decision and you're quite undecided. But I think we were a little bit surprised that kind of happened probably easier than we perhaps thought. But maybe the secret for us was that we had done a lot of research. And as Matt has outlined earlier, we've been looking at this for quite a while. The channel's been brilliant in terms of helping us to do our research beforehand. So, it'd be interesting to see what Kim thought, but we probably came across as people that weren't starting from scratch. We actually did have some good base ideas around which areas we were looking at. So I'd probably advise people to do that. And of course, it's brilliant because your channel's there. There's others as well where you can get familiar with the areas. And start to narrow it down before coming to talk to you guys, so that you've got an idea. It's not that you're not open, and you guys can always help think about areas you might not have thought, but you get to know us. And so if you want to tick that box off, that's what Kim did. She kind of spoke to us. She knew what we were looking at. She then gave us a couple of others that were outside of the area we were looking at. But I think she did that knowing that would help us then know, oh, no, I am right. I do want to be over in Estepona. So she was great with that. And I think if you're prepared to do that, to do the research, but then still remain open, you'll come out feeling like you've had your decision ratified, you've made the right choice for you, and that just helps you then feel all the more comfortable.
And there is a little bit of an element of, I mean, Kim probably showed us in total somewhere between 15 and 20 different apartments. But they can blend together a little bit when you do that.
No, I think after a few days of seeing so much property, you need someone to sort of help you distinguish between what you've seen and what you're not seeing, because it does blend. I totally agree.
And I think that's where also, again, it provided you've been clear with your. I mean, that's what I would say is, you know, if you've got 5 or 6 things that really are non-negotiables for you, and they will be different for everybody. So some people will be like, it's really important that we have a great view from the terrace, and other people won't care about that. Some people will be, I'm more worried about the outside space and the inside space. Other people will be, well, it's got to have 3 bedrooms, or it's got to have, you know. I think it's quite important that you keep that in front of mind, so you kind of you know that your apartment is ticking your must-have boxes, because I think that way, when you eventually do make your decision, you won't have any kind of regrets around it, because you know that you got the at least everything that you had to have included. There's lots of choice, Kian, isn't it? That's the other thing. It is difficult, not in a bad way, but you're spoilt for choice, I think would be the phrase. And that does make it, you know, quite challenging. I mean, we ultimately, you know, we bought from Naynor Homes, and they had at least 3 developments on the coast, all of which would have been good options for us. And just the apartments in those 3 developments were all quite similar. So just choosing between that one developer had its own challenges. So I do think, I mean, I think the final piece of advice I would get is that it does move quickly from a financial point of view. So when we came over the first time, we came over in our minds that we were going to be in a position to, you know, buy something, put a deposit down and do that. And actually, when we understood how quickly that initial deposit, which can be 25-30% of the value of the property, was going to be needed, actually we weren't in a position to move forward. Because where we did have, you know, tens of thousands of pounds available, or tens of thousands of euros, we were going to need over 100,000 euros within kind of 30 days of signing on the dotted line. And that needed a little bit more organising in terms of, you know, having that sat in the bank account ready to transfer across to the lawyers. So that, I would say, is probably my 2, that when it does move, it'll move quickly, so you need to be ready for that. And then if you are a person who has a sort of somewhat practical nature, having a genuine list of things that you can kind of go, well, this property's, so you've got a basis for comparison. I think you'll get down to the 2 or 3 that you like relatively easily, but then making that final decision, it's like, well, if we buy that one, I don't get to have that one, is a little bit more difficult. So I think if you can back up the feels with the reels, that's probably quite helpful.
I think linked to that, my advice also would be, that will happen almost, that you'll go along to a developer and you could be putting the decision off for quite a while, because the developer will say, well, we've got these available now, but we might be releasing these, but I don't know exactly when. And the danger then is you're thinking, oh, do I go for this bird in the hand now? Do I go with what's available now, or do I wait and see what gets released in maybe a month's time? But what you might find then is that it just keeps going like that. And then you go and see those, and then there'll be somebody else who's saying, I'm going to release in a month's time. So I guess there's a danger that if you don't kind of consciously make the decision, I'm happy with that one, I'm going to go with it now, there is a danger that you might find yourself constantly feeling like, I need to wait what that availability release is going to look like, and then the next one, and then the next one. So it's not
even apartments in the same complex, it's the next complex that's going to come available as well.
Absolutely. Guys, these are all like super tips, like real amazing sort of buyer wisdom. Matt, Catherine, like, what an amazing story. This is exactly why we're doing these client talks. It's the story behind the sold post. It's the real success stories of real buyers like yourself. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for jumping on the, you know, High Homes YouTube channel.
Thank
And
you.
I look forward to seeing you guys in our office for a coffee next time you're in Spain.
Sure.
Thanks, Kian.
That'd be great. Thanks,
Bye, guys.
Ian.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.